1. This happened pre-COVID, but I can't remember when. Probably a few years before 2020. For backstory, my husband and I love going to specific types of conventions. We plan every day for the panels we're interested in and have a tight schedule. We also try to make sure that we're in the upper part of the lines, because I can't see very far away and the rooms are huge. I am also pretty antisocial. I really hate talking to strangers in public or people approaching me. Side note, I'm not like this in my place of work, nor was I like this in school or college. On one of the days, we got lucky, and we were first in line. The panel was like in 30 or 45 minutes, so I start playing my 3DS. As we're sitting down playing, I hear this girl, and Jesus fucking Christ was she annoying. She was down the hall, but you can hear every word, and she talked like those overly annoying high-pitched girls that exaggerate everything. Like Katie and Sadie from TDI. Anyway, I'm slightly annoyed, but I got my earphones, so I just plugged them into my game and problem solved. Wrong, she decides to sit down next to me since I'm technically second in line. Still playing and listening to music, I realize she's trying to talk to me. I look at my husband, boyfriend back then, but he doesn't notice, so I just continue to ignore her. She's still trying though, and is now actively trying to get my attention. So I answer with, "What?" She starts saying something, but I can't remember, so I stop her and say, "I'm sorry, but can you not talk to me? I don't know you, and I just want to play my game." And she goes off. She's yelling things like, "I'm just trying to be nice, don't act like a bitch, I'm not doing anything." Things like that. She's actually throwing a tantrum and being pouty. My husband, then boyfriend, is like, "What the fuck?" But he's not trying to get involved. Because she's yelling, I just decide to tell her to fuck right off, and surprisingly she does. By now, getting in front of us in line. Now my husband wants to say something, but I tell him to just let it go. I don't want to interact with her anymore. Unfortunately, that wasn't the end of it, because now she's trying to talk shit about me to my husband. She said, "Can you fucking believe that, bitch?" Still yelling to my husband. To which my husband says, "That's my girlfriend. You realize that, right?" At this point, the line is like 20 people, and everyone is just staring at her and our direction. When my husband says this, though, she's full-on screaming now. She's screaming that I am a fucking bitch, and so is my husband. She gets up and goes to the end of the line, screaming, and sits next to some other person, and starts ranting about me, still calling me a bitch. My interaction with her at this point is over, but then it gets weird. She's still yelling that she just wanted to talk to me, that she's a good person, that she's just different. The other person responds with, "Well, she doesn't have to talk to you, you know." Now she starts sobbing from that and is yelling, "I want my mommy," in between sobs. I wish I was making this up, and this girl had to have been my age, like early 20s. I think the person now felt bad or something, because they say, "Well, why don't you call her?" So she starts to call her mom on loudspeaker, because of course she is. Now I can't remember exactly how the convo went, because I was trying my best just to focus on my game. But basically, she told her mom that some girl, me, was being mean to her because she wanted to talk and I didn't. I believe her mom said something like, "Well, some people just don't like talking to others, but that's not something to get upset over and cry about." This makes the girl even more upset and crazier, because now she's saying things like, "Why don't you ever take my side, Mom? Why do you hate me so much? I bet Daddy would have me back." Now she's calling her dad, and the same thing happens. Only now this time she's screaming she wants to kill herself. This whole thing happened within like 15 minutes. At some point, before the kill myself part, the con staff asked me if I wanted her to get the boot, as they say they have a zero harassment policy. But I said no, she's not near me, so I don't care. But when she started screaming about killing herself, they went to her and pulled her from the line. They told her she's been making a scene, making people uncomfortable. And now that she's threatening to kill herself, they felt it was best to call for help and escort her out of there. I don't know if calling for help meant police or what, but they said if she's feeling this way, she needs to get help. She's still crying, but is now yelling at staff that it's not like that, she doesn't mean it. She starts saying I should be the one who gets kicked out because I started everything, to which the staff member told her, "She literally did nothing to you." She screams, sobbing,
"Yes, she did. She was so mean to me. I don't deserve this. It's her fault. She wouldn't talk to me."
I don't know what happened after that, because the previous panel let out early, and they were going to let us in, so we started getting up. All I can guess is they escorted her out of the building. My husband and I never spoke about it till recently, but the con is coming back this year, and I was talking about it with a coworker. My coworker says she wishes to go, but also doesn't because she hates people in crowds and has heard a lot of horror stories about cons in general. I was telling my coworker, well, I've never really had a bad experience. Oh wait, yes I have. So I told her the above story, and she thought I should share it. You can probably argue that I was rude about it, but my coworker and husband don't think so, so that's all I care about. 2. A little backstory here. I live on the first floor of a 3-story house which is rented out as 3 apartments. The people in the basement are working immigrants who basically work all week and drink on the weekends. They stick to themselves and haven't broken any rules. So we let each other be. My pregnant, soon-to-be sister-in-law lives on the 2nd floor. She lives with her son and her boyfriend, who she constantly yells at and treats like trash. Visits for long periods of time every now and then. We moved here over a month ago because she recommended the apartment to us. Let's cut to the good stuff. The rules here are simple, quiet from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., no pets allowed. My fiancé went to sleep around 11:30 p.m. one night. He was unable to sleep due to noise from their apartment and sent a message asking them to keep it down. Their living room is above our bedroom. The night after, around 2 a.m., we heard noises from upstairs. It sounded like they were moving furniture around. This woke up our 6-month-old baby. My fiancé decided to call whoever he heard talking upstairs, and it was his nephew. He explained that he had put his hamster cage in the living room and it was running in the wheel. The next day, I was getting the stroller ready to go for a walk with our baby. My sister-in-law comes barging down the stairs and asks if my fiancé is awake. Yes? She barged into our apartment and started yelling at him about his complaints, and he shouted at her to get out. I put my baby in the stroller and walked out of our driveway. I hadn't done shit. Suddenly, I hear her shouting at me,
"I will call the landlord about this."
This was embarrassing and uncomfortable because we live in a neighborhood with houses pretty close to each other. I had to stop the walk and go back to calm her down. She said that
"We're not allowed to live our lives and we have to tiptoe around our apartment because of you." And "I never listen to music anymore."
She went ballistic Karen and blew up the whole situation, making it seem like my fiancé complained a lot more times than he had, and that he was just the worst. She was also pissed that he had decided to call her son instead of her, which he did because he didn't want to wake her up due to her pregnancy hormones. Apparently, her son got nervous and didn't want to answer. I just stood there and listened, as I didn't want this situation to escalate. I walked in to ask my fiancé about his complaints and message. He explained to me that he had only complained the 2 times I have mentioned. I also saw the message he had sent, and it was something along the lines of, "Hey, could you please keep it down up there? I'm trying to sleep. But it's a bit noisy up there." With a smiley emoji at the end. I also heard the conversation with his nephew the night before, and it had been calm. All he did was ask him to move the cage. We decided to let the situation die out for now. It would end up in them either having to get rid of the hamster, which would really hurt sister-in-law's son, or being thrown out. I don't want to deal with an angry pregnant woman being thrown out. They're looking for a new apartment either way, and hopefully will be out within a year. I have evidence of them owning the hamster, and my fiancé has the timestamps for the message, and can call on his phone just in case. I'll let her call the landlord next time and get herself in trouble. They have been talking, walking, and watching movies basically every night after we moved in. 11 p.m., and we have never complained about that, as it's never bothered us. Our baby has only ever woken up to the hamster cage once, as it sounded like a chair being dragged back and forth across the floor. My fiancé asked sister-in-law's son nicely to please put the cage back in his room, as it had awoken our daughter. I should also state that my sister-in-law exaggerates situations. My fiancé once told her he may grab a pint or two with some friends, and she told their mother he was gonna get drunk. She's almost 32 and calls her mother about every damn thing. 3. Okay, so this is when I was younger and more naive, so no judgment here. At about 22 or 23, I had been out of college less than a year and was working full-time and had a second part-time job. I rented a basement studio apartment and had a boyfriend who had dropped out of high school and, at the time, was living with his father. Again, please, I was young and silly. We started living together because he just showed up one night and complained about how he couldn't take living with his father, and he wanted to live with me. Being an overly empathetic person, I agreed he could stay for a couple of days. Well, that turned into a few weeks and a month. At first, it was nice because he would clean the apartment and cook dinner. He couldn't run errands because he couldn't drive due to no license. And with working over 40 hours a week, it was nice at first. Well, then he started complaining about having to do things around the house and how he felt like, in his own words, "You're treating me like a slave." I never really asked him to do anything, he just did it on his own, and I felt like it was a fair trade-off since I was paying all of the bills and feeding him. Growing up, the rule in my household was whoever works the least number of hours gets the most chores. Well, my part-time job had to let go of a few people, and I was one of them, so we sat down and talked about how this would impact our budget. He said his uncle could get him a job where he worked, and that it was in walking distance. I told him that if he was working and bringing in a paycheck, it would only be fair we split the bills and the housework. Well, a few weeks go by, and he is talking about his new job and bragging about how he is getting paid more than I do, and he didn't even finish high school. I smile and nod. In the meantime, he is eating out for lunch each day, because he hated to bring sandwiches and complained he didn't have time to microwave a meal in the lounge. Finally, his first payday comes, and he comes home with a bunch of cash, bragging about how he just opened an account and still had some cash to spend. I calmly held out my hand and told him what he owed me for his share of the bills, rent, and food for the month. I think it was about $500 because the rent was $850 with utilities, and he loved to eat expensive food. He stammered and asked me why I could expect him to pay me that much. I pointed out to him that for the past few months I had been paying the rent and the food, and he felt like he was a slave, so now we're both going to contribute to the household financially. He then demanded to know why he had to pay so much when he wasn't allowed to drive my car nor use my cell phone. I showed him the math and explained I was not asking him to pay for my cell phone nor my car, and that I was not including the clothes and eyeglasses I had bought him. He started yelling so loudly my landlord heard, and after knocking came into my apartment. He told me to go wait upstairs in his place with his wife, and told my boyfriend to leave because he was not on the lease. And he'd had enough of seeing me kill myself with work to support his freeloading behind. He left that night. And later that week, word got back to his father, who had my number, because my now ex had called him on my cell phone. He spoke to me and apologized to me that I had to put up with his son. He explained he had heard that he had been living with me and that I had kicked him out for not helping out financially, and explained to me that my ex had been living there and just left one day, after he told my ex he needed to get a job and start chipping in. He told me to save his number, and if his son ever showed up again with some sob story, to call him, and he will come drag his ungrateful and stupid ass home. He actually told me, "My son is a loser. I did my best, and I still want to help him be a real man. But you can do much better than him. Don't ever get back together with him. Get yourself a nice man with a career who appreciates you." May he rest in peace. 4. So I'm a former retail worker. Oh, how the mighty are falling right now. This took place the day after I put my end-of-year resignation notice in, further reinforcing my need to get the fuck out of there. This is not overly relevant to the plot, but lets you know where I was mentally. Because the place I work sold decor, holiday rush shopping and hours for us happens early November through early December. About halfway through the madness month, and we're still having wraparound lines, so understandably, more or less, people get varying degrees of frustrated. They're notorious for having 2 or 3 cashiers at most of the time. But we hustled. It's about noon, and I've been left in charge of this massive warehouse-style sales floor, while the operations manager gets her break. I'm also on register with the other associates, and I'm trying to provide direction, answer the store phone, and check out customers. A customer comes in asking where returns are, and at this company, it's all in one place. She leaves to go get in line, and I don't think anything more of it. Finally, we have the line down to a customer to each of us cashiers, and none waiting in queue. I get the returns lady, and boy, here's where it finally gets interesting. This lady, our entitled Karen, is hustling up to my register, wearing a look of fury that only a Karen can replicate. This means battle stations. She slams her bags of outdoor chair cushions onto my counter, and the following conversation ensued. "Hi, how can I—"
"Finally! That line was way too effing long. I need to return these."
Rude, but understandable. "Okay, do you have your receipt or a perks phone number we can look up?" She slams the paper on the counter.
"Here, just get it done."
So what she puts down is actually a credit card application approval slip. They're printed on receipt paper as well. Still, easier to try and fix. It looks like you brought the credit card approval slip instead of the receipt, but no worries. I just need to see your driver's license and have you answer questions on the pin pad to find it. She slams her license on the counter.
"I was told I wouldn't need to bring my receipt. That's why I brought that,"
she huffs, stabbing her finger into the paper on the counter. That was probably just her misunderstanding. The credit card lookup process given to her in the brochure, no matter, it happens. But I'm not gonna be the one to tell the human warhead armed to fire that she was wrong. I explain the process as we go along so she knows in the future how this goes. Once we reach the point where the register tells us if it can look up the purchase or no, it cannot, and to contact XYZ phone number, and by this point I've handed back her license. It tells me for some reason we can't look up this account to return the purchase to the credit card. Okay, so try it with the perks, and it won't bring up the card as an option. Ergo, no way to return it with an electronic pass the register conjures up. I explain it to her as apologetically as I can because it's reasonably frustrating. I tell her that if she has a receipt or has a perks account, we can refund it to her other card. This was apparently the wrong thing to say, and the warhead detonates.
"What? That's the reason I got the credit card, so I could track my purchases and not need a receipt, and it can go back without having the card there. I should cancel that damn thing right now."
Okay, she definitely misunderstood the process. That is something you will have to take care of outside of the store. I apologize for the inconvenience, but we can still—
"Don't give me that sorry crap, just do it."
The return. I can absolutely do that. I just need another card to return it so we can use your perks to look it up, since you didn't bring your receipt. By this point, I'm shaking at the knees because I'm anxious and angry. I don't like confrontation if I can help it, but the part of me that knew my days had finally been numbered was ready to go off on this incompetent rube in front of me.
"No, I want it back in the credit card."
Okay, but if that's the case, then you need your receipt, because that's the only other way I can get a return pass for you in the computer.
"But my receipt's at my house right now, down the road. I want this done now."
Well, if it's that close. So then that leaves us two options at this time. You can give me a perks number to look up the purchase again, and put it on a different card, or go home and get the receipt, so we can put it back on the credit card. Enter the famous last words by Karens everywhere.
"That's BS. Get me your manager."
Plot twist. I am the manager. That would be me. She then proceeds to sweep everything off the counter back into the bags and storms off, and calls this over her shoulder.
"I'll go get the receipt, but I better not have to wait in that effing line again. I ought to report you to corporate."
Encounter over. I am a new kind of peeved and go off to answer the store phone for a call and deal with the next round of crazy. That lady did not come back that day. I worked to close even. I did not get reprimanded, and I left that job, missing my coworkers, and a newfound sense of peace. 5. I live in a private residence on a private drive. It's a small neighborhood, and everyone mostly minds their business, given it's more on the countryside. But there's this one neighbor, we'll call her Karen Neighbor. She has recently purchased the home where a sweet old man used to be before he passed. She has wasted no time at all harassing the children who dare ride their bikes near her property, and generally is making enemies in the neighborhood. She hasn't gotten a chance to interact with me besides the normal neighbor greet. She then texts on our neighborhood talk app.
Hey everyone, I found this cute cat almost dead. It looked as if it was starving, and I took it in and fed it.
It was my cat. Some context. My cat is grey and white and prefers outside. If he isn't outside for a bit of the day, he retaliates. So I decided with the spacious yard I have and low level of danger, I'd feed him in the morning, let him out, wait until he comes back and feed him, let him in, and then he and I both sleep. This has worked for years and he seems much happier for it. He usually returns at a certain time. So I wait near the door at this time to bring him inside. The previous night he didn't return. I got worried, so I called our farmer, who is the nicest and most helpful person on our road. Like if you need anything, you go to him, and told him about the missing cat. He said he'd keep an eye out and spread the word tomorrow. Tomorrow came, and I'm on the neighborhood talk app and see my cat. I was elated until I actually read. I take my cat to the vet consistently, and he is in perfect health. There was no way he was almost dead or starving. I was willing to put all this aside, however, as I just wanted my cat back. I call her. This was a conversation. Hey, Karen neighbor, I was looking at the neighborhood talk app, and you found my cat. When can I swing by to pick it up?
Why would you leave your cat outside? Do you even care about it?
Taken aback by the audacity, I do care about it. It goes outside on vet recommendation. It really likes the outdoors and comes back inside every night.
Oh really? Which vet told you that?
I give my vet's name. He said some cats just can't stay inside.
Yeah, right. You probably made that up and just leave it outside because you don't love it enough to take care of it.
I'm very close to losing it, trying to push a conversation forward. Okay, so are you home right now because I can switch?
Yeah, I'm home. Come and get the cat.
Our neighbor just hangs up the phone. I was fuming. Why the hell would anyone say stuff like that, unprovoked, especially when they don't know what they're talking about? No matter, I grab my keys and drive down to Karen neighbor's house. I knock on the door. Hey, I'm here to get the cat.
Oh, never mind. It makes sense now. You're one of those gay types.
I'm biromantic asexual. I look the part too. I'm proud of it, so I show it off. But that was the last straw. Alright, just give me my fucking cat, Karen neighbor.
How dare you talk to me like that? I'm calling animal control. You are obviously unfit to take care of a pet.
Sorry, what? I can't speak, Karen. Just give me my cat and I'll leave. It's simple. Karen shuts the door and calls animal control. I decide to call the farmer. Obviously, I need backup, and I'm not wasting emergency resources for a petty squabble. The farmer says he's on his way. He arrives shortly after. I bring him up to speed, and he knocks on the door. Karen neighbor answers it. Ma'am, could you please return this man's cat?
No, he assaulted me because I said he couldn't take care of this poor dying cat.
Listen, I know that's a bunch of baloney. Hope he wouldn't hit anyone. Not just because he's one of the nicest people I know, but because he's weak. He laughs, so do I. Can I please have the cat?
The only people I'll be giving this cat to is animal control.
She then slams the door. She was making this extremely hard for all parties involved. There was one option left, wait for animal control and explain what was happening, so we did. About 20 minutes later they arrive. We explained to the man what was happening. Jesus Christ, I'll get the cat, he said. He knocks on the door. Karen neighbor answers, but instead of her demon form, she has turned into the nicest woman in the world.
Hello, are you here for the cat?
I'm here to return the cat to its owner. Please hand me the cat.
But he obviously can't take care of the cat. He's a maniac. You should take it to the shelter.
Listen, the owner has proved he obviously cares about the animals, so the cat will remain in his care. Please return the cat, or I will have to get the authorities involved. Karen stutters for a bit, sighs, and hands over the cat.
This is a huge mistake.
She shuts the door. Animal control returns my cat to me. I thank both the farmer and animal control and leave in my car. I'm just happy it's over and I don't have to deal with that entitlement again. She hasn't grabbed it again, yet, but when she does, I'm calling the authorities. I'm not dealing with her again. My cat is very happy. There were no signs of damage or disease when I went to the vet after the incident, and so far this story ends unhappily ever after. And anyone thinking, don't leave your cat outside, it'll kill him? I understand where you're coming from, and I promise he's usually good about boundaries in the fence. This is the second time this has happened, and I didn't catch it immediately. I understand the fear, but in the end, I only know what I've been told, and I'm going with the vet rather than some random comments on indoor versus outdoor. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Idiots in the Wild, episode 53. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Please do share the video around with all your friends and family. It is very much appreciated. Alright, let's see. Let's get to the serious business of Hellfreezer's question of the day. I was watching a video last night about robots, right? Even though some of them were technically cyborgs, but we won't argue. And I was wondering, when we eventually get to the point where we can have robots in our home, would you be comfortable having a human-looking robot to do household chores and or robot pets? Please leave your answers in a comment below. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.